Bruce is an ordained Zen priest back to 1977 at the San Francisco Zen Center, and he is the founder and has been the guiding teacher at the Occidental Laguna Sangha in Sebastopol for 20 years. He's taught meditation in prisons to veterans and was executive director of a hospice program in Sonoma County. And he's currently a psychotherapist in private practice in Sonoma. And for many years, he was a mediation attorney. But you'll see.
Does that, can you hear me?
I'll get a stand.
Pardon? I can just close this, but why don't I just try it this way for a bit? And the people in the back, if you can't hear me, just go like this, okay? That'd be good. So I didn't check this out with you, but I hope it's okay. Could we just do 3 breaths for your wife? Just take 3 breaths and just come into silence for a minute and just honor.
Yeah.
Just honor her passing. I found that's often the best way, not with words, but just with some silence. How's that? Okay? All right. So usually I give a pretty basic meditation instruction, and then I have people, sit for 20 minutes or half an hour, and then I answer questions about how frustrating that experience was for them. Except a few people would say, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that." Yeah, I'm here to actually probably tell you mostly what I'm going to say, as you already know, right? But I'm going to encourage you to follow your deep understanding about something that's worth pursuing, which is being present. Really coming back again and again to being present, which is, what I think spiritual practice is about, and certainly what Zen is about. There are some people here that actually, I've been practicing meditation probably for 50 years, and been a priest for 50. There are some people here that have been practicing meditation longer than I have. And it's also humbling, I would think I'd be a lot more enlightened after this journey, but I'm, as one of my teachers said, it's just one continual mistake, right? Which is, you always know, oh, well, you could be just a little more present, right? You could come a little more back into your body and back into your breath, back into being alive in the present moment. It's something you need to continually remind yourself of. It's amazing, we can go fairly long without food. We can go reasonably a length of time without water. Not so long without sleep, but we can't go long without breath, right? And it's always here. It's your best friend. And we ignore it most of the time. It's your best ally. And I'm here to encourage you to really make use of it. So not only, I'm a Zen priest or whatever that means, a psychotherapist, but I'm also 83 years old. I have a bad back condition, another chronic illness that there's no cure for, low platelet count, and my tremor in my hand was bothering me enough that I went to the doc about 6 months ago and said, "Do you think I have Parkinson's?" Because I do have 5 or 6 friends that have or had Parkinson's, and said, no, it's a familial tremor. You probably, have had it for a while, right? And it runs in my family, so Parkinson's, at least out there a while for me, if at all. But what I do find is that when I meditate, it gets better. my hand calms down. And I find that whatever practice brings me back to the present moment, my body and my breath helps. Not only with the tremor in my hand, but my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my son, whatever conflict or physical infirmity I happen to be working with. So I'm not here really to talk to you about Zen practice. I'm here more to give you something very practical, even though the Buddha did say, I don't want to get philosophical on you, I just want to get something right immediately where you can take the arrow out. I don't want to talk so much about how the arrow got there, just how do you get it out right now? So very practical advice, you know. I will say that I have a number of people in my meditation group that their main practice is going to the synagogue, or they're Catholics, so these practices work well, whatever your orientation is, and if you're happen to be, you know, secular. You know, for about 10 years, I did a meditation group in the county jail. A very stressful situation, right? In some ways, they tell me more stressful than state prison because new people come in all the time. You don't know who's the threat. Most of them are coming off of some kind of drug addiction. Right? A lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty is what causes us stress because we want to get out there and worry about it to solve it. And that rarely helps. Some of that's helpful, but we do it way too much. We're addicted to worry, to trying to figure out things in the future. So the first thing I do with them, they were in the group, you know, it was a guard there, you know, looking around, sizing up the situation. So I'd have them do this exercise 5 breaths. So I'd like to have you do this with me. So just breathe in kind of more deeply than you normally do. Feel it in your body, and then exhale and release a little on the exhale. Try that 5 times. Inhale, a little deeply. Exhale, release. 3, 4, 5. About 20 seconds, right? So if you don't get anything else from my talk today, that pretty much sums it up, right? That's it. If you could just try to do that as a practice 4 or 5 times a day, it would help. Usually when I'd ask the prisoners, I said, how do you feel? They said, well, you know, I definitely feel better. So it drops you down at least a little bit, right? Maybe that much. But if you took it up as a practice, maybe you did it for 5 minutes, or maybe you did it for 10 minutes, conscious breathing in the body in the moment, it would help. Why does it help? Well, because it brings you back to your body, your breath that you've been ignoring. It begins to activate the, you know, parasympathetic nervous system down here with the vagus nerve is. I emphasize in our tradition down here where the vagus nerve is. And it gives you a little break from your thinking process, all of which are extremely helpful. We're really addicted to our thinking. Our whole education system has oriented us. We can think our way out of the problem we have. And that's one of the main difficulties if you take up meditation or mindfulness, is you just notice it's very humbling how much you want to think your way out of the problem. This is to help encourage you to think there's another way, and that is to create more space and see what wisdom arises in the midst of that space. You could say the gap, maybe between your thinking. But I do need to say it isn't about eliminating thinking. It's about having and coming into a different relationship and learning about your thinking. So usually, I'm a psychotherapist. We look at patterns. We'll have one meditation a little later about that. Usually, depending on who you are, I happen to be the kind of person I've noticed that likes to plan, have a little more control, figure out what the future's going to be. And if you pay attention, how much you do that, you notice it'll create anxiety. Because you can't figure it out. There's too many indeterminants. If you go to the past, too much regret, that can lead to depression or a combination of both. So the healing can happen in the present moment, right here. So, when Ron asked me to do this, I said, I don't actually like to talk about it. I like people to meditate more. Talking about meditation is a little like trying to get you to ride a bicycle. Talking about how to ride a bicycle, or talking to you about how to play golf, or play tennis, or whatever you have to do. It can encourage you, but you actually have to have the physical experience in your body. It's got to be an experiential experience. So again, I think that's why just maybe that little release, that 2% release you had at the end of those 5 breaths, gave you maybe just a hint of, what's possible. So I'd like to go do a 3-minute meditation with you. None of the meditations I give you are going to be longer than about 4. I'll give you maybe 3 meditations. So this one is a regular standard meditation that I give. I've given it 1,000 times. You can find this any tradition. There's Catholics have one called centering, almost identical to this. Tibetans, Zen, Vipassana, Catholics. So here's the meditation. The first thing is come into your body. That's why breath is important. And one way to come into your body is to pay attention to your posture. Actually feel, as much as you can, your seat on the cushion. Feel it. Feel your feet on the ground. Now begin to feel, elevate if you can, if you're physically able, elevate your chest just a little bit. That'll bring your back into alignment. Try to keep your ears in line with your shoulders. That keeps you from going forward or this way or that. You're off balance. It brings you into balance. And just paying attention to your posture and your breath will bring you back to this present moment. So when you slump one way or the other, you think, how annoying, but actually there's a reason for that. It brings you back. Then you pay attention to the breath. You can always connect with the breath at the abdomen. It's there, the rising of your, now just get in touch with the rising of your abdomen. On the inhale, just feeling how that relaxes, and then as you exhale, rising, falling. You can keep your eyes, in our tradition, partially open, because this isn't about withdrawing from the world, it's about being present. Whatever you do, whatever step you take. For some people, I was thinking, you maybe have some advantage, those of you that are Parkinson's, because you have to walk slower. When we teach walking meditation, you slow down and literally synchronize your breath with every step. And that connecting and feeling the ground in the Vipassana meditation tradition, they do that as much as they do sitting meditation. So what I want you to do is pay attention to the breath going in and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling, getting in touch. Now what happens is you can shut the mind off for maybe 5 breaths, but your mind, because it has a very strong momentum that you've cultivated, will keep coming back. Here's the metaphor that I want you to try to entertain. Think about your consciousness as being the open sky And instead of that you are your thoughts are just floating by. You're training your mind to not engage the thinking process. You're training your mind to keep coming back to the body, the posture, and the breath. Let's do this for 3 minutes. This is a help for most people that start meditating. Count your exhales up to 5. Little deeper exhale, 1, 2, just up to 5, and then return. If you've been meditating, like some people here have, you can try to go to 10. But that's too challenging for most people. Just see if you can do that for 3 minutes. See what you can teach yourself about how busy your mind is or how still it is. It varies according to your emotional weather pattern. Okay, let's start. Into your posture, feeling your breath. Exhale. Let go a little. 1. Just accept your thoughts and let them go very gently. Let them go as soon as you notice. Notice the breath maybe slowing down a little. Your hearing may become a little more acute. Just accept whatever comes and then let it go. Return to the breath as your anchor and your posture. This takes some effort. As you develop this, it's fine for you to drop the counting. It's just that most people find it helpful to start. For the last minute, try something different. Instead of counting, very gently at the end of your exhale, just say the word either peace or release. And feel yourself do that. Exhale, peace. maybe feel that peace. Okay. So that could be a complete practice for you, you know. Maybe just the 5 breaths, maybe just doing it 3 minutes. When you get up in the morning, or that's the best time before the mind kicks into gear, or before you go to bed. That'll help you sleep better. So why, if it's so good for you, why don't more people meditate? Because it's both exquisitely easy and very difficult. It's difficult because we're not very good at it. I've been doing it for 50 years, and I often, not maybe often now, but frequently can't make it to 5. That's pretty humbling, right? Now, in longer meditations, when I've been doing longer retreats, this very same meditation I gave you, I just finished one last week where it was about 7-8 hours a day, which is not hard when you do it with a bunch of people and you have breaks, you do it for a couple of periods, do walking meditation. The mind really does kind of exhaust itself. And you can just be with more pure awareness, some thoughts floating through. No guarantee that'll happen. Sounds difficult, and in some ways it is. The woman that was sitting right next to me was 95 years old. Sat the full, this was a 5-day retreat. So you can do this. The reason why is because we don't like to do what we're not good at. And if you get into the idea that meditation is about controlling the mind, you'll get discouraged. It's more about accepting the mind and not getting hooked by the mind and training the mind to come back. You know, instead of running out with whatever you're worrying about or reminiscing about again and again, coming back. You trust the process of that. You know, millions of people have used this, and it has helped. You know, when you learn a foreign language, it's difficult, right? You make a lot of mistakes. When you pick up any practice, you know, you make a lot of mistakes. So part of the practice is cultivating a lot of equanimity and compassion for yourself, you know, for just how wild your mind is. Oh, and developing hopefully a sense of humor about it, right? Otherwise you get into a struggle. You know, in this aging business isn't easy. You realize we don't have a lot of time left. How are you going to use the time you have? When I was in jail, they used to say, some guy be, you know, complaining, and lots to complain about. You know, no control, don't know how long their sentence is going to be, don't know if they're guilty, innocent, lost their job, wife's going to divorce them, kids don't talk to them, lots to worry about. Guards don't like the guards, they don't like their cellmates. And they would say, the guys that had done it a while, they said, you know, you can decide whether you're going to give yourself, the phrase was a hard time. So sometimes when I'm struggling, there's a little voice that says, okay, this is true, what's happening, but are you going to give yourself a hard time about it? And then you have, you know, an illness like Parkinson's on top of it. You lost your identity, you've lost a lot of control, authority, power. That's not easy. That's not easy. So we have to kind of do the things. We have to do what we need to do to take care of our health, go to the doctor, take the meds, whatever you need to do. and you need simultaneously to try to relax into the situation. Try to accept and relax. It's a lifetime of work and pleasure in doing that. You know, we have a phrase that came to me both in my practice and in medical. We say, pain is not optional. Right? This is important to memorize this. Pain is not optional. Old age, sickness, and death will happen. You can try to put it in abeyance, but it's going to happen. And then there's suffering, and they're different. Suffering is a response to pain. So I'm giving you one tool. Maybe there are many tools. There are many tools. Gardening, taking a walk. These are all ones that I do. You know, whatever exercise, you know, which also brings you into your body, right? So even if you could do these practices and it decreases your suffering, which is your reaction to pain, you have some agency in terms of your suffering. You have less agency in terms of your pain, although if you react more competently, your pain, proven by many studies, doesn't go away, but it can decrease. You know, I also want to say, as another word, to encourage you to do these practices, you know, come back to the present moment, is that it's in our DNA. You know, we are animals, and we owe our aliveness, our species being alive, to being present. You know, if you weren't present, you know, our ancestors, something would eat you, or you couldn't eat. That's an important observation. We've lost that because we're able to distract ourselves so much. You know. And we also had to learn how to deal with the anxiety of just being alive, which we all carry anyway, sort of a generalized anxiety, because we don't know how we're going to die. You know, when I don't know, this dates me, but I don't know, maybe if you remember going to the Academy of Science in San Francisco, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago. And there was a whole hall that used to be dedicated to various Indian tribes. Anybody remember that? Remember that? And there was one over to the left where there was this Eskimo sitting on an ice floe with a spear overlooking a hole where the seal would come up. And I thought, yeah, he's probably in there, you know, 20 degrees below zero for hours looking at this hole, because if he misses the seal, he's going to starve. His wife and kids are going to starve, right? And he has to have peripheral vision because, you know, polar bears are the most aggressive of the bear species. So he's got to do both. He's got to be very tuned in, very concentrated. He cannot space out. He cannot not be present. And that was probably pretty true up until pretty recently. There is somebody once gave me this phrase, which I like. So it's both survival, that you have to be present, but also what's sweet about it is it's enjoyable. Because the more present you are, the more you enjoy life, right? You all know that. Everybody here knows that. And the more distracted you are, the less you're going to be present for what the world has to offer you. Somebody once said they were in, I don't know, Las Vegas, and there was a sign over the Keno table or something, and it said, "You must be present to win." You must be present to win. You must be. So one of the things, because you're having to slow down and you can't do what you used to be able to do, I notice this when my back goes out and I'm on the floor, that small things can give you enormous pleasure. And you can cultivate an extraordinary amount of gratitude for the very small things. I would say that if everything I tell you is leading you in a direction, it's to cultivate more gratitude for what you have, not to abide in what you no longer have. That actually you can breathe, that you can, look at somebody in their eyes. You can receive a gift. Everything is an opportunity to cultivate gratitude, but you must be present to win. So maybe another meditation. Way too much talking. So I often would say there's three main things you will get from meditation practice. One is you get to relax. And if you relax, you'll be more present. If you're more present, which you have to keep reminding yourself to do, you'll win. You'll be more alive. You'll feel your aliveness. Just that. And maybe some of you just 5 breaths, okay? The second thing, though, is that you begin to pay attention to how nutty your mind is. Just how much your patterns of thoughts cause you to suffer. I must have that, I must have that, I can't be happy till I have that, I can't be happy. I can't be happy unless that goes away. I can't be happy unless that goes away. You begin to notice those patterns. You particularly notice any negative patterns. All those are negative patterns. In some ways, gotta have, gotta have. In other words, right now isn't sufficient. But that's humbling to notice that. But you do begin to notice the patterns. You may have to notice them for quite a long time before you realize it's making you suffer. Physically suffer. You notice your stomach starts to tighten up. You could try it out. Just when something irritates you, just get more irritated. And then just begin to feel how your sympathetic nervous system is responding. You get sick, right? And the third level is more metaphysical. It more has to do with sort of ultimate reality, and I'm not going to talk about that too much. But basically, let's say, just on the level of relaxation, if you're more relaxed, you're going to be more fun to be with. Your heart is going to have more space. You're going to be more open. You're going to be more forgiving. And that will make you happier. And it will certainly make your partner a lot happier if you can abide more in that place. And you begin, this is a deeper implication, which maybe we'll have time to get into a little bit. Who are you? Well, all the things that you've had to give up, that you no longer are, right? You just constantly, it's like one giving up after the next. Can't do that anymore, can't do that anymore, can't do that anymore. Well, who are you? Who really are you? Since you're continually having to give all this up, what is that place, maybe when your mind isn't so busy and it's still, maybe that's who you are, is just more that pure presence. We have a phrase in one of our sutras we do, it's called pure presence ever transcending. Ever transcending, ever into something more spacious and more open. And think about it, what is peace? It's sort of universal, right? You always, on your card, you write peace, may you have peace. Or I was in the Peace Corps in Uganda, and a lot of Muslim, and that would be, salam alaikum salam, which means peace be with you and peace with you. It's very universal. And what is peace? Peace is not spending a lot of time wanting something or trying to get rid of something. It's like being at peace. And what's interesting about peace is it doesn't mean your infirmities have to go away. That's one thing I've learned in meditation practice. You sit for a while, things start to hurt. And what you start to cultivate is a capacity to be with that pain with a sense of equanimity. And you are all learning that. You know, you all know that better than I do at this point. And this is where it's a little tricky about meditation, because it's very easy to get into meditation as a self-improvement. You know, I'm like exercise, I'm going to do this so I'm going to feel better. You know, most people do feel better if you take it up, even if it's just 5 breaths a day, a couple times a day. But the more you can do it without some sense of like, here isn't where I want to be, but out there is where I want to be. That you're still out there, you're not here. And it's the same thing with working with your negative thoughts. If you go, I've got to stop this, I hate this negative thought, that's a negative thought, right? That's just another negative thought. So how do you deal with the negative thought or the patterns? Because your negative thinking is very, very seductive. Be way down the road before you usually catch it. You know, it's like, oh, here it is. Oh, this isn't very helpful. Oh, it's teaching me something. Wow, what is it teaching me? You know, that it's going to make me not feel very good. So you got to come back and see what it feels like. We begin to trust more and more. There's a phrase, you know, like, if you're in the present moment, you begin to trust more, an appropriate response will surface. An appropriate response will surface. You think, no, I've got to think what the appropriate response will be. I got to strategize. And yeah, that's helpful, but you do it way too much. Just begin to trust by cultivating peace. An appropriate response will surface for you about what to do. You know, I had this book in my bookcase, and Ron kept saying, you gotta read this book, you gotta read this book. So, actually, I'm not quite finished, but if you're interested in breath, this is a very secular way to look at it. This guy just goes through everybody that he can find that studies breath. I just gave it recommended to my son, who's a surfer and a free diver, because when you're surfing, which I used to do, you wipe out and you're underwater for a long period of time, and that creates panic. So you have to learn how to deal with that panic. And so that's just one of the things that happen. It'll just get you engaged in studying your breath. And there are a couple of exercises in here that have helped mine. And since I'm on it, this is a friend of mine who I'm meeting next week. Every breath changes. How to Age with Honor and Dignity, a guide for men that was written, had a couple of life-threatening illnesses. A little more psychologically oriented, good. And there's a handout sheet, which I'll put back there that have these books. And then this book, which we may get to, which is sort of the Bible. Anybody here read this book? It's called Full Catastrophe Living, John Kabat-Zinn. First edition was 90s. Every major hospital in the country has a meditation program. Some of you may have gone through it. And it came out of his program at University of Massachusetts Teaching Hospital, where doctors just, what do you do with chronic pain? I can only give you so much, morphine. What do you do? And so we developed a whole program, which literally, I think every hospital, Sutter, sure has it, Memorial had it, I'm sure they still have it. Basically, how do you work with pain? How do you work with anxiety? So what he found, they do a test before, what's your pain level? And I'm pretty good at indicating, when I'm at an 8, I can say what an 8 is. For me, an 8 is on the floor and I can't get up to sit on the toilet. That's the 8. So they would say, where are you at? Where is it? And then they'd give them a program for 8 weeks, and at the end, they'd say, what's your pain level? Or maybe you could say, yeah, both your pain and your suffering level. And they'd, it isn't going to go away. It isn't a magic elixir. meditation is not that, but there would be a drop, 20, 30%, anxiety, depression. What did they do? Well, first they gave them yoga for about 15 minutes to get them in their body, you know, very simple exercises, and then they gave them a meditation. And the meditation was basically, which I think I'll give you right now for maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, is a body scan. It's good meditation because it gives you something to concentrate on, like counting, you know, or like saying release, peace. Now you can drop all those things, but it's usually when you progress a little further if you're going to take up meditation because the mind is pretty active. So you start, you know, it usually had them lay down, not sit down, lay down half an hour twice a day. That's an hour a day. You can do this in bed. You know, you can do any meditation in bed. I just find it's better for me to in a sitting posture, but I do it walking, I do it sitting, I do breathing while I'm driving. You know. So this is, you start at the top, and then you systematically put your attention. First of all, maybe you start with your breath because you know what that sensation feels like. You can feel that rise and fall, right? You ground in that. Then you take it to the top, and you just systematically kind of go through. And I've done 7-day retreats where the first 2 days we just cultivate awareness of the nostril, and then we systematically go through. And after doing this for 6 days, you can actually feel sensations in every part of your body. But it'll help you. Maybe you'll have 3 sensations. Well, just kind of sweep, okay, no sensation. No sensation in my face. No sensation in my jaw. Oh, a little in my jaw. You know, neck, chest, you can always usually find one in your chest. How about back? No, I can't find any sensation there, but just rest. Just see, oh, what could that be teaching me? Down a little bit lower. Oh, a little in my knees, you know. And you systematically go through and breathe into those areas, relaxing at the same time. So it's a great relaxation exercise. So let's do this one for 3 minutes. So you're going to start at the top, and then just systematically, as slowly as you want. You know, I've spent a whole hour sometimes just going through my whole body, but just, you know, the next 3 minutes, just try to go through each part, see if there's a sensation, and just breathe and use the sensation as a way to concentrate your mind and bring you into that. Okay. Again, continuing to breathe and continuing when thoughts come in, as they will, gently let them go. Return to concentrating on your physical sensations and relaxing. Okay. Use the awareness of your body to concentrate your mind. find some point of pain, or just see if you can soften into it for a few breaths. You just continue to do that a little bit, and I'm going to read you a couple passages from the book. So this is about practicing non-judgmental acceptance. So this way of mindfulness is to accept ourselves right now as we are. Symptom or no symptoms, pain or no pain, fear or no fear. Instead of rejecting our experience as undesirable, we ask, what is this symptom saying? What is it telling me about my body and mind? Right now, we allow ourselves for at least a moment maybe to go right into the full-blown feeling of the symptom. This takes a certain amount of courage, especially if the symptom involves pain or a chronic illness or fear of death. But you can at least dip your toe into it. Maybe just 1 minute, 2 minutes. And you can see reaction with wise attention. You can just watch our feelings and our thoughts and see them as just feelings or thoughts. Maybe you can catch yourself identifying with them as my feeling, or my anger, or my thought, or my headache, and let go of the mind and just accept the moment as it is. Perhaps it's just a feeling that doesn't even need a name. When we get anxious, we worry about our anxious, and that makes us more anxious. When we're depressed, we get depressed about being depressed. Maybe we could just feel what that feels like. So when you break the identity, you let go of these exaggerated reactions by seeing pain as a process, not something solid, but something changing, ever changing. Sometimes it changes for the worse. It gets more painful. But it changes. We see that our thoughts and feelings are dynamic and not static. That they change, our thoughts. Everything's changing. Every thought changes. Every feeling in our body, every physical sensation changes. It's not just ours, but rather an unfolding process that we are experiencing. And as you work with your discomfort, perhaps you can experience a sense of being calm within the pain or beyond the pain. So even if you just did a body scan, for 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, maybe you find it's pleasurable enough, to be able to relax into discomfort. People say, and I believe this, that probably every addiction, and if we're honest, we all have our favorite strategies, have to do with the inability to be with discomfort. Maybe too much TV, you know? Maybe too much alcohol. Just wanting to get away from discomfort. And maybe the strategy is to maybe come more back in, to be able to hang out with it more, to make friends with it. I think that's a good way to look at it. All this is a way to help you make friends with, what's difficult in your life. Maybe I'll end with one last meditation, which every one of these meditations I do, So here's one, also a way to calm your mind. As you breathe in, synchronize this with your breath. I'm going to give you two phrases that could be very helpful. One is, may I be free of fear and worry. And the next one is, may I be peaceful and at ease. Now, these are a traditional meditation. Usually you do it for yourself, because before you can do it with someone else, you have to kind of feel it. But I do it, what I encourage you to do is do it for your grandkids or your pets, because that will give you an immediate experience of what that feels like to have compassion for someone else. You feel that unequivocally for your pets or your grandkids, right? You could, or whatever occurs to you. So I want you to think of an object like that, a pet, a grandkid, somebody you love, your mother, grandmother, and just say, may she be free of fear and worry. May she be free of fear and worry. May that person be free of fear and worry. May they be peaceful and at ease. And notice how much you want that for them. You really want that. That person be free of fear and worry. So that's generating that feeling that you want to cultivate. And when negative thoughts start to come through about something else, it's harder for them to penetrate, because you're creating this field of positive energy. So do that for a while, or you could do it for yourself. May I be free of fear and worry. And then when you start on negative thoughts, it's hard to go down that road. You'll catch yourself quicker and bring your, no, I can't be thinking this if I want to be free of fear and worry. May I be free of fear and worry. May I be peaceful and at ease. May everybody in this room be free of fear and worry. May everybody in this room be peaceful and at ease. May everybody in this room be filled with gratitude amidst their difficulties. And I really wish that for people. When you're with somebody, you could just think that to yourself while you're with them. May I be free of fear and worry. May I be peaceful and at ease. Thank you very much.